Hi everyone, my name is Marcel Van Hemert, and welcome to the first on our series on the 50 states. Seeing as we go alphabetically, we head down to the south for our first episode in the great state of Alabama. Now, I've actually been to Alabama on a number of occasions. My first experience with the state was at the Fruithurst Winery, where we stopped to get directions from a muscadine vintner or winemaker named Vicky, after our local GPS lost signal somewhere in western Georgia. After reorienting ourselves, we stopped in Fort Payne to see the Little River Canyon National Preserve before carrying on. Another time, I was in Pensacola, and my dad and I stopped here at the Floribama, a restaurant straddling the border between Pensacola and Orange Beach in Alabama. Last time I was there, I stopped for brunch in Birmingham before heading on to Mississippi. In addition, my great Aunt Pat was born in Birmingham. So, for the most part, my experiences with Alabama have mostly been passing through. So, let's get a little more in depth. The current flag of Alabama consists of a red saltire, or sideways cross, on a white background. Sounds simple, right? Well, not really. The inspiration for Alabama's flag is a bit unclear, as looking back in the state's history, there are multiple sources of inspiration. The earliest example is the Spanish Cross of Burgundy, which flew over the southern part of the state as a part of Spanish and West Florida, hence its similarity to the current flag of the state of Florida. However, other sources say that the state drew inspiration from the Confederate battle flag, which also featured a blue saltire on top a white saltire on a red field with 13 stars. It's in this source where Alabama, along with Florida, Georgia, and Mississippi, have faced calls to change its flag. Alabama used to fly this flag, which they only flew for about a month and a half in 1861. Alabama did not have an official flag for another 35 years when this one was adopted in 1895. Alabama is one of the few states whose flag does not include their state seal, much to the relief of vexillologists. Side note, a vexillologist is someone who loves and studies flags everywhere. However, Alabama's state seal is relatively simple. It's a map of Alabama, featuring the state borders and the rivers. For that reason, I'm going to go over the state seal in our political geography segment. Speaking of, Alabama's capital is Montgomery, located roughly at the center of the state. However, Birmingham is its largest city, located just north of Montgomery, it's right here, with Mobile, Huntsville, and Tuscaloosa, home to the University of Alabama, rounding out the top 5. Alabama's nicknames are the Yellowhammer State, after the state bird, the Heart of Dixie, and the Camellia State, after the state flower. Alabama has 67 counties, the most notable of which are Jefferson County, located right around here, which is the most populous and home to the city of Birmingham, and Baldwin County, which is located right around here, which is the largest by area and contains the city of Mobile. Alabama has 2 major international airports, the largest of which is Birmingham Shuttlesworth International, located right in this area, serving Birmingham and its suburbs and much of central Alabama. The other is Huntsville International Carl T. Jones Field, which is located right here and serves Huntsville and northern Alabama. If you want to visualize which states border Alabama, look no further than the state seal. Alabama is a state located in the southeastern United States, more specifically in a region known as the Gulf South or the Deep South. It borders Tennessee to the north, Georgia to the east, Florida to the southeast, and the Gulf of Mexico to the south. To the west, Alabama shares its longest border with its partner in crime, Mississippi. These two states are often paired together, as they have a storied history. The Gulf coasts of both states were both at one point part of Spanish, then West Florida, and the northern parts were jointly incorporated as the Mississippi Territory in 1798. So, are you interested in visiting? Let's do some sightseeing. Starting in Montgomery, you have the Dexter Avenue King Memorial Baptist Church and Dexter Parsonage Museum, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lived from 1954 to 1960. You also have the first White House of the Confederacy, the Hank Williams Museum, and the home of F. Scott Fitzgerald, author of The Great Gatsby, where he and his wife lived out the Great Depression. Moving on to Birmingham, you can visit the Sloss Furnaces National Historic Landmark, which is a hallmark of Birmingham's origin as a steel town. The downtown Civil Rights District, including the 16th Street Baptist Church, the Alabama Jazz Hall of Fame, and the heaviest corner on earth, where 4 classical skyscrapers were constructed in the early 20th century. You can also check out the Arlington Antebellum Home and Gardens, home to the only pre-Civil War house left in Birmingham. Second only to New York City's Statue of Liberty, the second largest cast iron statue in the U.S. sits atop Red Mountain, keeping watch over Birmingham. Appropriately, it is a statue of Vulcan, the Roman god of blacksmithing and forgery, a key industry in Birmingham. The statue was made from local iron in the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. In Mobile, you can check out the USS Alabama Battleship Memorial and enjoy the Mobile Carnival Museum commemorating the country's first Mardi Gras celebration. That's right, it was in Mobile, not New Orleans. Otherwise, some places of note include the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, the Bull Weevil Monument, which is located here in Enterprise, and it's right there, honoring the defeat of the pests in the cotton fields, the Helen Keller House in Tuscumbia, and the Tuskegee Institute right here in Tuskegee. Alabama's highest point is Chiaha Mountain, which is nestled in the Talladega Mountains, some of the foothills of the Appalachians. Alabama's lowest point is here at the Gulf of Mexico. Guntersville Lake, which is the state's largest lake, is also along the state's longest river, the Tennessee. It's right here, Tennessee goes right there. However, not all of it is in Alabama. The longest river entirely within the state is the aptly named Alabama River, which is formed where the Coosa and Tallapoosa rivers meet right outside of Montgomery, and it flows down to Mobile Bay. Alabama is the second highest state in the Gulf South, hosting the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains and the Talladega Mountains. Parts of northern Alabama don't even look like they belong in the state, with areas like the Russell Caves and Little River Canyon hosting waterfalls, valleys, and vistas one might imagine from Tennessee and North Carolina. Alabama has a humid subtropical climate, with hot, humid summers and mild winters. Alabama rarely gets snow, however, it is possible in these northeast Alabama hills. Alabama can be divided into 5 major physical regions. By far the largest is the East Gulf Coastal Plain, which spans the majority of the state. In the north you can find the Piedmont Upland, the Alabama Valley and Ridge, the Cumberland Plateau, and the Highland Rim. When it comes to food in Alabama, better get some oil and batter because they like it fried. Some of the state's favorite fried dishes include fried chicken, fried catfish, fried okra, fried pickles, and my mom's personal favorite, fried green tomatoes, among other things. On the side, you'll want some grits, which can be paired well with shrimp. You have biscuits and boiled peanuts. Like much of the South, Alabama is mainly known for its soul food and barbecue. Being a coastal state, Alabama also has a wide array of cuisine, including crawfish and seafood. Want some dessert? Don't worry, Alabama's got you covered. You simply must try banana pudding, one of the South's and one of my favorite desserts. If that's not your style, go for some pecan pie or some peach cobbler. Otherwise, some Alabama fast food chains include Guthrie's, Milo's, Foosackly's, and the nationwide chain Jack in the Box. So you're probably ready for a good time after all of that food, and don't worry, Alabama's got you covered. Though most famous for its celebrations in New Orleans, the country's first Mardi Gras was actually celebrated in Mobile in 1702, and it has been since. Alabama also hosts a number of festivals for jazz and country singer Hank Williams, who hails from Mount Olive in southern Alabama. The National Peanut Festival takes place in Dothan, and the National Shrimp Festival takes place in Gulf Shores. But every year, the Geico 500 at Talladega, which was the inspiration for the very funny movie Talladega Nights, The Legend of Ricky Bobby, starring Will Ferrell, takes place on NASCAR's longest speedway located right outside of Talladega. Alabama is famous for its people. Some famous Alabamians include MLB Hall of Famer Hank Aaron, who was born right here in Mobile, Willie Mays and Satchel Paige, both born here in Birmingham, fellow MLB Hall of Famers, author Truman Capote, who was born in Louisiana but considered Monroeville, Alabama, home, singer Nat King Cole, who was born here in Montgomery, scientist George Washington Carver, who was born in Missouri, but founded the Tuskegee Institute and called Tuskegee, Alabama, home, right there. Apple CEO Tim Cook was born here in Robertsdale, right around Mobile. Helen Keller was born in Tuscumbia. Civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr. was born here in Montgomery, and his wife Coretta Scott King was born in Marion. MLB pitcher Craig Kimbrell was born here in Huntsville, and Corey Kluber was born here in Birmingham. Two-sport star Bo Jackson was born in Bessemer. Wide receiver Julio Jones was born in Foley. Rapper Gucci Mane was also born here in Birmingham. Indian leader Osceola was born in Tallahassee. Boxer Joe Louis was born in Lafayette. Rosa Parks and Lionel Richie were both born in Tuskegee. In addition, the Tuskegee Airmen were a battalion of African-American pilots for the Army during World War II who were legendary for their bombing raids and work as aerial escorts. While they were not all from Alabama, they trained and assembled at Moton Field at Tuskegee University, right here outside of Tuskegee. The music genre, the band Alabama hails from Fort Payne, right up there, and is known for some of its greatest hits, like Mountain Music, Sound of the Song of the South, and Dixieland Delight. However, the song most people probably think of when they think of Alabama is Sweet Home Alabama, and rightfully so. Interestingly, the band who wrote the song, Lynyrd Skynyrd, hails from Jacksonville, Florida. And how can we talk about Alabama without mentioning its most famous, albeit fictional, son, Forrest Gump? While the story itself may have been fictional, Forrest has brought attention to his humble, once again fictional, hometown of Greenbow, Alabama. And just like life, this state is a box of chocolates, and you never know who you're going to meet in Alabama. So how do these people identify themselves? Well, 65.4% are white, 26.8% are black and African American, 4.4% identify as Hispanic and Latino, 1.7% are mixed, 1.5% are Asian, and 0.8% are Native American, Alaskan, Hawaiian, or Pacific Islander. The disclaimer will go in this episode because it is the first, but the most commonly spoken language in each state is English, and it is Alabama's official language as 95.1% of the population speaks it. An important thing to mention before the rest of the episodes, however, is that while many of the states have made English their official language, the United States as a whole does not have one, which I mentioned because it's a common misconception and tends to be a commonly asked question in Bs. Also the case in the majority of states, Spanish is the second most common language, with about 3.1% of the population speaking it. After that, it's German, and the most common Native American language is Cherokee, spoken widely across the South. And now for the history segment. Before the Europeans arrived, Alabama was settled by the Alabama people, for whom the state is named, as well as for the Cherokee, Choctaw, and Creek, who were mostly sent away on the Trail of Tears. Alabama was first discovered by Europeans in 1519, but it was claimed for Spain in 1540 by Hernando de Soto, who came to the Gulf Coast in search of gold. However, it was the French who founded the first permanent European settlement in the state, Fort Louis, which is north of Mobile. The Treaty of Paris in 1783, which officially ended the Revolutionary War, gave Spain the southern half of Alabama, near Mobile, which was integrated into the territory of West Florida, and then the U.S. gained the northern, relatively uninhabited part. In 1813, the U.S. took the southern part, and the state was reunified. In 1817, it was established as the Alabama Territory, and in 1819, Alabama was the 22nd star added to the American flag. Alabama was one of the first states to secede from the Union in 1861 at the start of the Civil War, and the first capital of the Confederacy was in Montgomery. After the war, Alabama was readmitted to the Union in 1868. The state underwent much political and economic turmoil, and in 1955, Rosa Parks began the civil rights movement with the Montgomery bus boycott, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery. In 1964, the Selma to Montgomery Civil Rights March happened, which led to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. In the 1980s, Alabama began to shift to a more industrial-based economy, which contributes a large part to its economy today. In conclusion, Alabama is a state with a storied background that always kind of hides in the shadow of its neighbors, Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. But Alabama is truly, as Forrest would say, like a box of chocolates, and you just never know what you're going to get when you come and visit. Thank you all for watching this first episode, and stay tuned because next up we are headed to America's last frontier, Alaska. My name is Marcel Van Hemert. Keep exploring your world.